I was up here. I was up here. God damn it. Brian Reynolds built an empire worth over $600 million. He married Blake Lively and became America's favorite funny guy. But in 2025, he finally admitted the truth. The panic attacks that almost ended his career. The on-set behavior that co-stars called cruel. The childhood trauma he hid behind jokes for decades. And the real reason he nearly quit acting forever. This wasn't just another interview. It was a confession that changed everything we believed about Hollywood's golden boy. Ryan Reynolds was born on October 23, 1976, in Vancouver, British Columbia. He was the youngest of 4 boys in a strict Irish Catholic family, where chaos was constant. His father, James, was a former Royal Canadian Mounted Police officer who later sold food for a living. And his mother, Tammy, worked retail. Ryan often described himself as the family's moving target. With 3 older brothers, Jeff, Terry, and Patrick, he had to learn fast how to survive their punches and teasing. His father's temper made home feel like walking on a minefield, and even birthdays could end in silence or shouting. But instead of breaking under the pressure, Ryan developed a sharp wit to deflect pain, turning humor into his armor. He went to Catholic school in Vancouver and started out at Prince of Wales Secondary School, but got kicked out and ended up finishing at Kitsilano Secondary. Even in those early years, Ryan leaned into humor. He would copy TV characters and prank his brothers just to get a laugh or a moment of control. At just 12, he felt so trapped by his home life that he decided to audition for acting roles. He got lucky and landed a part on the Canadian teen drama Hillside, later called 15 on Nickelodeon. He was paid $150 per episode, which felt like a fortune when combined with his paper route money. It gave him freedom, confidence, and a taste of life beyond his tense household. His relationship with his father remained complicated. James Reynolds battled Parkinson's disease for nearly 20 years before dying in 2015 at 74. Ryan once said his dad couldn't express emotion and was trapped by pride, and Ryan blamed himself too for not bridging the gap between them. The lack of warmth at home only pushed him further into performance where he could be someone else and finally feel seen. The Irish Catholic culture of his household was built around storytelling, quick comebacks, and verbal sparring. Mealtimes were noisy competitions, and Ryan, the youngest and smallest, had to fight for attention with sharp jokes and faster punchlines. His family had a background in public service. His grandfather was even a politician in Alberta, but Ryan found his calling as the family jester. At 13, he made his debut on Hillside, a show that tackled serious teen issues. He shot scenes in both Vancouver and Ottawa, balancing his acting with newspaper delivery. He thought he hit the jackpot, but the job taught him that the entertainment world was demanding and sometimes cruel. Still, it gave him purpose. The show lasted until 1993, and Ryan appeared in 65 episodes. He earned about $2,000 per episode and frequently showed up on set unprepared, often improvising lines. This annoyed some co-stars but also showed a raw charisma that couldn't be ignored. He played a manipulative teen, but his sense of humor often cracked through the role, leading to multiple takes. He got in trouble on set after co-star Laura Bertram accused him of filling her trailer with fake spiders. Though Reynolds denied it, he was suspended for 3 days. The lesson was clear: play the game or risk being sidelined. It was his first real taste of workplace politics. After Hillside, Ryan joined a fantasy series called The Odyssey in 1993. Playing a coma-trapped boy navigating a dream world. The emotional demands of the show triggered his first panic attack during a night shoot in 1994. He didn't tell anyone, fearing it would ruin his career. The attack left a scar, and he began avoiding emotionally heavy roles, leaning into comedy as a safer space. In 1995, he enrolled at Kwantland Polytechnic University but lasted only 28 days. He quit to chase acting full-time and worked night shifts at a Safeway store to survive. That decision nearly cost him everything. One night in 1996, during a graveyard shift, 2 masked men robbed the store. Ryan hid behind a counter for 12 minutes, shaken to his core. That fear pushed him to take real risks, like leaving Canada entirely. Later that year, a friend convinced him to move to LA. They checked into a motel for $200 a month. On the first night, his Jeep was stolen and stripped. For 4 months, he drove a doorless car to auditions, getting laughed at and rejected. To make ends meet, he wore a chicken costume for telegram gigs. At one party, drunk guests threw food at him, and he questioned every choice he'd made. His first U.S. TV role came in 1995 in a film with Glenn Close. He thought it would change everything, but most of his scenes were cut. It was a brutal reminder of how disposable new actors were. In 1996, he filmed a horror-themed X-Files episode and was so disturbed by the shoot that he had nightmares for weeks. After that, he avoided horror roles completely. That same year, he took a role in the true crime miniseries In Cold Blood. To prepare, he studied real murder case files and autopsy photos, which gave him such bad insomnia that he couldn't sleep for weeks. The mental toll was real. He learned how damaging method acting could be when the source material was soaked in trauma. By 1997, things hit rock bottom. He had over 300 failed auditions. Casting directors told him to his face that he was forgettable. One even said he had nothing memorable about him. That comment nearly broke him. But instead of quitting, Ryan returned to improv theater, hoping to find joy again. And in that moment, something clicked. What almost ruined him became the fuel he used to build one of the most surprising careers in Hollywood. Ryan Reynolds' big break came in 1998 when he stepped into the role of Michael Bergen, better known as Burke. The show was called Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place. And it wasn't even meant to last, just a filler for ABC's schedule. But from the very first episode, Burke stood out. He was the kind of guy who got into trouble, joked his way through it, and somehow made you root for him. Reynolds brought so much energy and wit to the character that the show stuck around for 4 seasons. Adding up to 81 episodes, what started as a pizza joint comedy filmed loosely around a real shop in Massachusetts quickly became something bigger, and Reynolds was right at the center of it. When the pilot aired on March 11, 1998, nearly 18 million people tuned in. It ranked 11th for the week with a Nielsen rating over 15. ABC hadn't seen an opening that big since Spin City. A lot of that success came from Reynolds' chaotic charm. In the very first episode, Burke was popping experimental pills for money. Not exactly your usual sitcom storyline, but it worked. And with the Drew Carey Show airing right before it, the viewers kept rolling in. ABC immediately ordered more episodes. The chemistry between the cast helped. Reynolds played off Richard Ruccolo and Traylor Howard with ease. The three of them built something solid. Later on, names like Nathan Fillion and Suzanne Cryer joined in, and the group only got stronger. Reynolds has said he loved the cast desperately, and even years later, he still stays in touch with some of them. It wasn't just actors though. Celebrities from Carmen Electra to Nomar Garcia Parra dropped by. Blink-182 and Bare-Naked Ladies even made appearances. Behind the scenes, Reynolds couldn't stop cracking up his coast. The bloopers say it all. By the 3rd season, the pizza place disappeared. The characters had grown. Burke was chasing a medical degree. Pete was becoming a firefighter. Sharon had moved on. The name of the show even changed to just Two Guys and a Girl. Viewership peaked in season 2 with 12 million people watching. But then came the Friday night slot in 2000, the infamous death slot. Ratings dipped to 6.7 million in the final season. Still, Reynolds held the show together. His role evolved, but the charm stayed. The finale was ahead of its time. Fans got to vote online for the ending. And the twist, Ashley ends up pregnant. Reynolds' next leap was Van Wilder, a college party movie that nearly cut out the very scenes people still remember. Early cuts removed his nude party moments, but test audiences wanted the wild version back. When they got it, especially the whipped cream scene, it paid off. The film had a budget of $5 million and earned $50 million globally. 2/3 of ticket buyers came back a second time. Reynolds joked later that it made family dinners awkward forever, but it also led to his next paycheck, $2 million. Then came Foolproof in 2003. Reynolds played a con artist, but this time the role came from something darker, his own past. As a teenager, he'd pulled scams, even fake charity drives. He channeled those memories into the role, but the movie flopped. It made just $1 million on an $8 million budget. Reynolds shut down for months. He didn't leave his apartment. He missed auditions, ignored interviews. His agent had to intervene. It was the lowest point in his career, and he later said he almost moved back to Canada. Therapy helped him through it, and he kept going. His next move was Blade Trinity in 2004, and it turned into chaos. Wesley Snipes refused to act in the same scenes as him. Communication broke down so badly that Snipes started sending post-it notes instead of talking. One note simply said, "I'm not working with this clown." Reynolds kept improvising. Snipes got angrier, and the set became hostile. They had to use body doubles, and reshoots ballooned from 90 to 150 days, costing the studio an extra $12 million. Reynolds missed out on other major roles because of the delays. He even added a Snipes clause to his contracts after that so he could avoid toxic Still, critics said Reynolds was the best part of the film. In 2005, things got weirder. The Amityville Horror wasn't just another horror reboot. Reynolds decided to live in the haunted house replica they built for filming. For 23 nights straight, he stayed there in the same bedroom where the real-life murders happened. He claimed the temperature dropped mysteriously. Strange scratches appeared on his body, and he even had nightmares about the killings. The crew caught him sleepwalking on camera. He later said it was partly for marketing, but admitted not everything could be explained. The film ended up making over $100 million worldwide. That same year, Just Friends created a different kind of tension. Reynolds was engaged to Alanis Morissette, but on set, sparks flew with Amy Smart. One scene wasn't even in the script. Reynolds kissed Smart with so much energy that the director just kept filming. They rehearsed that kiss several times off camera, too. Morissette heard the rumors and made a surprise visit. Witnesses say they argued in his trailer for hours. 6 months later, they broke off the engagement. Reynolds later said that shoot taught him how dangerous method acting could be, especially when love stories started to feel a little too real. Reynolds' relationship with Blake. Lively quickly became one of Hollywood's most admired love stories. They married in a private ceremony in South Carolina in September 2012. Their chemistry was undeniable, both on and off screen, and their shared sense of humor became the foundation of their relationship. The two would constantly tease each other on social media, making fans adore their playful dynamic. Together, they built a family, welcoming their first daughter, James, in 2014, followed by Inez in 2016, Betty in 2019, and their fourth child in 2023, whose name they've kept private. Despite their fame, they managed to maintain a relatively private family life, raising their children away from the chaos of Hollywood and often splitting their time between New York and their hometowns in Canada. Behind the jokes and glamour, however, Reynolds continued to battle anxiety, a struggle he had carried since his teenage years. In a 2021 interview, he revealed that his mental health issues often stemmed from his childhood experiences, his father's volatile temper, and the constant pressure of performance. He admitted that he would often wake up in the middle of the night, his heart racing, his mind spinning with worst-case scenarios. To the outside world, he seemed like the epitome of confidence and wit. But inside, he was fighting panic attacks and He once confessed, "I have anxiety. I've always had anxiety, both in the lighthearted, I'm anxious about this kind of way, and I've been to the depths of the darker end of the spectrum, which is not fun." His honesty resonated deeply with fans and helped destigmatize conversations around mental health. By 2025, Reynolds had achieved something extraordinary. He had transcended Hollywood stardom to become an empire of creativity, business, and humanity. Between his film successes, his marketing ventures, and his philanthropic work, his estimated net worth exceeded $600 million. Yet what defined him most wasn't his wealth or fame, it was his willingness to be vulnerable. He had evolved from the sarcastic comic relief of the 90s to a man who had faced his inner demons and used them as fuel for art and purpose. Whether it was turning a failed superhero movie into a billion-dollar franchise, revitalizing a small-town football club, or revolutionizing advertising with humor and honesty, Ryan Reynolds proved that success doesn't come from perfection. It comes from resilience, from owning your flaws, and from never losing your sense of humor, even in the darkest moments. For millions around the world, Reynolds wasn't just Deadpool or the man behind Aviation Gin. He became a symbol of perseverance, a reminder that behind every smile, there can be battles unseen, and behind every failure, a chance for reinvention. And as he often says, with a smirk that hides a lifetime of lessons, if you're going through hell, at least make it funny. Reynolds' story doesn't end with success, it evolves into something much more human. After years of balancing Hollywood, business, and family, he began stepping back from the relentless grind. In 2025, he announced that he was taking a partial break from acting to focus on his production company, family, and mental health. Fans were surprised, but those who truly knew his journey understood why. The fame that once drove him had become both a blessing and a burden. The endless interviews, red carpets, and late-night shoots had taken their toll. Reynolds explained that he wanted to be present for his children, to watch them grow, and to live moments he had missed in the pursuit of his career. He began spending more time in Wrexham, where the football club he owned had become a local phenomenon. What started as a wild experiment had turned into one of the most heartwarming sports stories in modern history. The club's rise through the English football system was nothing short of miraculous. But what moved Reynolds most wasn't the trophies, it was the people. He often spoke about how the community reminded him of his own roots in Vancouver, hardworking, proud, and filled with heart. He and Rob McElhenney funded stadium renovations, improved training facilities, and launched charity programs that revitalized the town's economy. The fans adored them, not just as celebrities, but as part of the Wrexham family. Reynolds said, "They gave me more than I could ever give back. They made me believe in something real again." Outside of sports, Reynolds became increasingly vocal about causes close to his heart. He donated millions to mental health initiatives, children's hospitals, and Indigenous education programs in Canada. In interviews, he often mentioned how his fame gave him a microphone, but it was his responsibility to use it for something that mattered. He and Blake founded several charitable partnerships, quietly funding programs that never made headlines. "We don't do it for recognition," Blake once said. "We do it because we've been lucky, and luck doesn't mean anything if you don't share it." Despite his growing empire, Reynolds never lost his sense of humor. His maximum effort brand continued producing viral ads, blending heart, absurdity, and wit in a way only he could. Whether it was poking fun at himself or turning small companies into household names, he proved that marketing could be as entertaining as film. His approach inspired a new generation of creators who saw in him a model of authenticity and innovation. In one of his later interviews, Reynolds was asked what he wanted his legacy to be. He paused, smiled slightly, and said, "I hope people remember me for laughing, for trying, and for making a few folks feel less alone." It was a simple answer, but it captured everything he stood for. Behind the billion-dollar deals, blockbuster hits, and endless jokes was a man who learned that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's power. From a frightened boy growing up in a tense home to one of the most beloved figures in entertainment, Ryan Reynolds' life is proof that pain can be transformed into purpose. He turned every setback into a story, every failure into fuel, and every laugh into a way of healing. His journey is far from over, but one thing is certain: whatever he does next, he'll do it with maximum effort.